We're so pleased to welcome Luis Miranda Jr. to the show today. He's been fighting for the rights of New York's Hispanic community for more than 4 decades now. He's also the founding partner at the Miranda Group, and we're also happy to have Gisselle Acevedo here. She's the CEO and president of the Ackerman Institute for the Family. They're working to give Hispanic families the support and resources they need during these uncertain times. Thank you both for your time today. It's a busy time of the year. Mr. Miranda, yes. You have worked under 3 mayors. You yes. are well known in this city. You have spent the bulk of your career fighting for the rights of Hispanics, including Puerto Ricans, of course. You're Puerto Rican, and you are a founding president of the Hispanic Federation. This question is perfect for you. How would you describe the state of Hispanic America today?
That even though we continue to increase numerically, we continue to face the challenges of immigrants and migrants to the United States. And as this administration, the Trump administration, chips away the safety net that we have worked so hard to create over decades, then more and more Latinos fall through the cracks and then have difficulties to sort of make it forward, and for the family and for the kids to make it to the next stage.
Right, and that safety net that Mr. Miranda just referenced is where your organization comes in. You are catching people that are falling through that safety net. Are you busier than ever before because of the current climate?
I think we're busy, and the thing that we find about our community is that it continues to be a resilient community. It continues to be a community who, you know, we're very diverse. I mean, when you think about Latinx community or Hispanics, we come from different countries, different environments, different economic groups, right? So we're not just all lumped into the same group. I think that that's the thing about Latinos is that we know how to survive up against the most complex and difficult environments, and that's always happened throughout all of our histories. What we are seeing more of course, are children and families who face anxiety, who feel unstable about their future in this country, because even if you're documented, right, if you look a little bit differently, there is the possibility that somebody will stop you or think of you or other you and think of you as different. So I think that families are facing the same challenges that other families face, right? Economic hardships, wanting to do better in this country, wanting to succeed, and then all of the obstacles that we face along the way. I mean, I know my entry into this country was not easy, right? With a
Costa Rica, right?
Correct, with a single mother. And I remember how hard we had to work. I always say we had to work 2 and 3 times as hard as other people.
Yeah, and Mr. Miranda, people are working hard. Immigrants are working hard, but there's a climate now where they're being treated as the other, where children, as she said, are afraid that their parents are going to be deported. Is there enough support to help deal with this current climate of fear?
There isn't. It's interesting. Last week, we had new numbers and how employment among Latinos was higher. But on the other hand, income inequality, it's also higher, which talks about the fact that in order just to catch up, you need to have a couple of jobs. Which means if you have a couple of jobs, it means, as my wife and I did when we were raising our children, it means that your kids are alone or with other family members or with friends. You're not necessarily there to sit there with homework. Sort of the things that we know are important for the development of a family and children begin to suffer, because to catch up, you have to work 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah, and speaking of children, a new report from the CDC, as you well know, shows that Latino teens are committing suicide at very high rates. What's your organization doing to help stop that?
That's correct, in particular young girls.
Yes.
Right, because they face the challenges of being different, of not understanding how to acculturate or assimilate within a culture. And so we actually have an expert, Dr. Gloria Lopez, whose PhD is specifically in this area. We have Sylvia Espinal, who again deals with this area. And so we have people who are not just working with the community, but are experts and are culturally competent to deal with young girls or young men, right, who are experiencing the fears. And again, I just have to keep coming back to it. As an institute at the Ackerman Institute, we are committed to working with families. So we believe that families heal together, families understand each other better than children, and young people are much likely to do better in their life. And so we usually don't work individually with the kids. We bring in the family, and we make sure that the family's really understanding, so that, because these are really social justice issues, right? They are issues of economics, they are issues of poverty, they are issues of education. And so sometimes we make sure that we make people understand that, hey, this is not actually your fault. There are surrounding circumstances around you that have actually put you in this position. Not that I'm saying that we're victims, but that you have to understand that you're not culpable for everything that happens in your family. And I think sometimes families are relieved to know that, yes, there's an economic issue here, and I didn't create that myself.
Right.
It's what can you do to solve it? Right? When I was at the Hispanic Federation decades ago, we worked in the development of community life that still Dr. Rosa Hill hits, that one of their signature projects 20 years ago was to begin to deal with the increased number at that point of adolescent suicide attempts, particularly about young women, as their own cultural norms in being raised here began to clash with the cultural norms that we bring when we come from somewhere else.
Sure, that's correct. I want to, you mentioned your son and daughter. Of course, your son is the famous Broadway superstar Lin-Manuel. Both of you worked very hard on the situation in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. Bring us up to date on what's happening there.
Things are definitely better. It's 2 years as of this September 20th since Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, but there's so much to be done. And part of the issue is that even though Congress did appropriate $42 billion of aid to Puerto Rico, very little has gotten to the island. In fact, of the $14 billion that have gotten to the island, most of it happened right after the hurricane, and it was utilized by FEMA for those initial 2 or 3 months where people needed so much. For the reconstruction money, the resiliency money, that's stuck in the bureaucratic red tape in Washington, because Trump has been very, very clear that he doesn't want to help Puerto Rico. He had said it 100 times, personally and through tweets.
Wow. Okay, well, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and both of you are working hard not only during this time, but all year round. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on this show today.
Thank you.
It's such a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
Still